Did you know that one of football's kindest players walked into a parking lot one summer night? And he never came home? He wasn't accused of a crime. He wasn't running from anyone. He hadn't betrayed his country. He had simply scored an own goal. To millions around the world, that explanation has never felt like enough. For decades, football fans have whispered the same unsettling question. How could 90 minutes on a football pitch lead to such a tragic ending? Some blamed organized crime. Some blamed gambling. Others blamed a nation crushed beneath impossible expectations. And over time, another story quietly emerged. Not a story of ghosts or monsters, but of a curse. A curse born from fear, pressure, money, and the dangerous belief that football could determine the value of a human life. Whether you call it a curse or a tragedy, one thing remains certain. The death of Andrés Escobar forever changed football. And even today, his story continues to haunt the beautiful game. In the early 1990s, Colombia was living through one of the most turbulent periods in its history. The country struggled with violence, powerful criminal organizations, political instability, and international scrutiny. Yet amid that uncertainty, football offered hope. Every weekend, millions gathered around televisions believing that 90 minutes could make them forget everything else. At the heart of that dream stood a calm, intelligent defender named Andrés Escobar. Unlike many defenders of his era, Escobar rarely relied on aggression. He anticipated. He organized. He led with composure. Teammates respected him. Opponents admired him. Journalists often described him as one of the nicest men in football. They nicknamed him the gentleman. He smiled easily. He spoke quietly. He carried himself with humility. Nobody could have imagined that he would become the central figure in one of football's darkest chapters. By 1993, Colombia had become one of the most exciting teams in world football. The squad was overflowing with talent. Creative midfielders, fearless attackers, disciplined defenders. Then came the match that changed expectations forever. Colombia defeated Argentina 5-0 in Buenos Aires. The result shocked the football world. Pundits suddenly spoke of Colombia as genuine contenders for the 1994 FIFA World Cup. Some even predicted they would become champions. Those predictions spread rapidly. Newspapers celebrated. Television presenters spoke confidently. Fans believed history was waiting. But with every prediction came something else. Pressure. Invisible, growing, and relentless. For the players, every training session now carried the weight of an entire nation. Every mistake felt larger than before. Every decision mattered. Looking back, many former teammates would later describe that period with a single word: expectation. And expectation can become a burden heavier than any opponent. The 1994 FIFA World Cup began in the United States. Colombia arrived carrying enormous hopes. Their opening defeat to Romania surprised everyone, but there was still time to recover. The second match against the United States became essential. Lose, and the dream would begin to disappear. The match was tense. Every pass carried urgency. Every challenge mattered. Then, in the 35th minute, the unimaginable happened. A dangerous cross entered Colombia's penalty area. Andrés Escobar stretched to intercept it. His touch redirected the ball. It rolled into his own net. And silence gripped everywhere. For a brief moment, the stadium seemed suspended in time. Escobar immediately understood what had happened. He looked toward the ground. He raised his hands. His teammates encouraged him to continue. There was still time. But football can be cruel. Colombia eventually lost. The tournament slipped away. The own goal became one of the defining images of the 1994 World Cup. Television stations replayed it endlessly. Newspapers printed photographs. Commentators debated it. Yet few people stopped to consider the man behind the mistake. After Colombia's elimination, Andrés Escobar did something remarkable. Instead of hiding from criticism, he wrote a newspaper column. Its title was simple: "Life doesn't end here." He reminded readers that football should never define a person's worth. He accepted responsibility for the mistake. But he also encouraged Colombians to remain united. He expressed hope for the future. Those words would become haunting in hindsight, because they reflected the values that had always guided him. Where were grace, dignity, and perspective? No one knew they would become some of the last public words he ever shared. When Escobar returned to Medellin, friends advised him to stay home for a while. Emotions remained high. The country was grieving. Football discussions had become heated. But Andrés believed life should continue. On the night of July 2, 1994, he went out with friends. Witnesses later recalled that the evening began normally. People recognized him. Some offered encouragement. Others criticized the own goal. He reportedly remained calm. Then, in a parking lot outside a nightclub, an argument broke out. What happened next has been documented through investigations and court proceedings. Shots were fired. Andrés Escobar was fatally wounded. He was 27 years old. The news spread around the world within hours. Football fans struggled to comprehend it. How could a World Cup mistake end this way? Authorities launched an investigation. The case eventually led to convictions. But even after the legal proceedings concluded, public debate never truly ended. Questions remained. How much had football influenced the confrontation? What role did organized crime and gambling culture play? Could the tragedy have been prevented? Writers, journalists, and historians have continued exploring these questions for decades. The facts of the case are documented, yet the emotional mystery remains. Why did a sporting event become intertwined with such devastating violence? Over the years, some fans began speaking of a curse, not because they believed in ghosts, but because the tragedy seemed impossible to accept. The word became symbolic, a way of describing the dangerous collision between football, national identity, public pressure, and violence. The true curse was not magic. It was the belief that one mistake could erase a lifetime of integrity. That belief transformed a football match into something far darker. And that is perhaps the most frightening lesson of all. Today, Andrés Escobar is remembered not for the own goal, but for the dignity with which he faced adversity. Young footballers study his story as a reminder that athletes are human. Mistakes are inevitable. Compassion is essential. Across Colombia and beyond, memorials, documentaries, and tributes continue to honor his memory. His final message, "Life doesn't end here," has become a lasting symbol of resilience. Its irony remains heartbreaking, yet its meaning is more important than ever. Football creates heroes. Football creates heartbreak. But every so often, it forces the world to confront something much larger than sport. When people speak of the death curse of Andrés Escobar, they are not describing a haunted stadium or an ancient legend. They are describing the terrifying consequences of hatred, pressure, and the loss of perspective. Perhaps that is why the story still lingers. Not because it is supernatural, but because it is real. And reality can sometimes be more frightening than fiction. To this day, supporters still leave flowers, scarves, and handwritten messages in Andrés Escobar's memory. They come from different countries, different generations, different clubs, united by one belief: that football should inspire hope, never fear. If you enjoy real-life mysteries, football history, and the untold stories hidden behind the world's greatest sporting moments, subscribe, leave a comment, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next documentary. And we'd like to hear your thoughts. What is the greatest lesson football should learn from Andrés Escobar's story? Do you believe the pressure placed on athletes has improved since 1994? Or do modern players still carry impossible expectations? Share your perspective in the comments, because conversations like these help ensure that tragedies such as this are remembered, not repeated.